All right, so are you ready to dive into something uh, pretty wild?
Always up for a challenge. What do we have?
We're cracking open the vampirebible.pdf today.
Okay, I've heard whispers about this one. Something about ancient secrets.
That's the gist, yeah. Claims to be straight from the Temple of the Vampire, like an actual organized group, not just some random dude in his basement.
Interesting. And the .pdf part gives it that extra air of mystery, doesn't it?
Right, like it's forbidden knowledge hidden in plain sight. And the cover art, don't even get me started.
What, is it like a sparkly vampire romance novel
Yeah.
trying to lure us in with a Fabio lookalike?
Oh, quite the opposite. Think winged skull.
No.
Yeah, and snakes crawling out of its eye sockets.
Yikes, subtle.
Not at all.
Ah.
It's like they're going for intimidation before you even open the first page.
Hmm.
But there's this weird juxtaposition, right? Because it's all official-looking copyright notice from the Temple of the Vampire and everything. Like, they want to be taken seriously.
Well, that's a bit unnerving. What's the saying? Within lies fact and fancy, truth and metaphor. Discriminate with care.
Wait, how did you...
It's in the contents, like a warning shot.
Okay, they definitely have our attention. And speaking of the contents, get a load of these chapter titles. The Vampire Creed, The Dragon Speaks, The Calling of the Undead Gods.
Secret methods of vampirism, the predator of humans, the book of dreaming, the coming apocalypse. They really went all out.
Right. This isn't just some vampire handbook. It's like they're trying to lay out their whole philosophy of existence.
A very different existence, it seems. So where do we even start?
Well, we might as well jump right in with the Vampire Creed. Buckle up, because this is where things start to get interesting.
Okay, hit me with it. What do these self-proclaimed vampires believe?
Well, forget everything you thought you knew about religion, because these guys are all about self-worship. The first line literally says, I am a vampire. I worship my ego and I worship my life, for I am the only God that is.
Wow, talk about egotistical.
Right. No need for a higher power when you're your own deity, apparently. And they double down on this whole self-reliance thing throughout the creed. I exalt my rational mind and hold no belief that is in defiance of reason, they say. It's all about logic and reason.
So far, so good, right? Except for, the whole worshiping myself part. But something tells me there's a catch.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a catch. Because then they go on to say, I am proud that I am a predatory animal and I honor my animal instincts.
Hold on, so they're all about logic and reason, but also embracing their primal urges. That's an interesting combo.
That's putting it mildly. It's like they're trying to reconcile the intellectual with the animalistic. And this ties into their big thing about survival. I acknowledge the fact that survival is the highest law.
Ah, so that's where the predator part comes in. They see themselves as above conventional morality, free to take what they need to survive.
Exactly. They even end the creed with this. Therefore, I will make the most of life here and now. It's all about maximizing your own existence, even if it means bending or breaking the rules.
Well, that's a bit ominous, isn't it? So they've got their own creed, their own moral code. But what about the whole vampire thing? Are we talking fangs and capes here, or something else entirely?
Oh, it gets weirder. They have this whole system of rituals and practices to connect with something they call undead gods. And this is where the whole life force concept comes into play.
Life force, like some kind of supernatural energy.
Exactly. They believe that vampires need to feed on this life force to survive, and they claim there are ways to tap into it through ritual and willpower.
Okay, now you've officially piqued my curiosity. So let's talk about these rituals. So last time we were talking about those rituals to connect with the undead gods and tap into that whole life force thing.
Right. This is where their version of vampirism gets really interesting.
Hmm.
And a little creepy, to be honest.
Oh, I'm sure it's perfectly harmless. Okay, so walk me through it. What kind of rituals are we talking about?
Well, it's not as simple as just, going out and biting someone. They actually have this whole system for drawing life
A
force.
system, like with levels and instructions.
Yeah, they lay out 4 distinct stages. And it all starts with something we do every day. Physical contact.
Physical contact, that's it. What, like a handshake?
Well, it's more about the intention behind it. They believe that any physical touch can be used to transfer energy, even if we're not consciously aware of it.
Okay, I can kind of see that. You ever shake someone's hand and just get a weird vibe, like their energy is off?
Exactly. But in their system, a vampire learns to control that energy transfer. They call it projecting an astral tendril.
Astral tendril, that sounds intense. So are we talking about like an actual physical thing?
Not exactly. It's more like a projection of their will, an invisible extension of their energy field.
Okay, so what happens next? Do they just go around poking people with their astral tendrils?
Not quite. The next stage is visual contact. This is where it starts to get really interesting, and by interesting, I mean a little creepy.
Oh, I love creepy. So are they saying you can drain someone's life force just by looking at them?
That's the idea. They believe that a vampire can project their astral tendril through their gaze,
Mm.
making contact with the other person's energy field.
Like some kind of psychic stare down. I've definitely gotten bad vibes from someone's eyes before, but that's usually just me trying to avoid small talk.
Right. But they take it to a whole other level. They even claim that the person on the receiving end of this astral gaze would feel it.
Feel it, like physically.
Yeah, like a tingling sensation or a sudden chill. They describe it as a very unsettling experience.
Okay, yeah, that's officially crossing over into creepy territory. So visual contact, got it. What's next on their list of vampire superpowers?
Stage 3 is where it gets even weirder. They call it sympathetic contact.
Sympathetic contact, like they're really good at offering condolences at funerals.
Not exactly. It's about using an object that belonged to the person they're targeting. A piece of clothing, a lock of hair, something like that.
Hold on, so they're basically weaponizing sentimentality. That's cold, even for vampires. How does that even work?
They believe the object acts as a conduit, allowing their energy to connect with the other person's astral body.
Right, because everything is connected, man. Vibes and energy and whatnot. Okay, I'm starting to see how their logic works. But something tells me it gets even weirder.
Oh, it definitely does. Because the final stage, the pinnacle of vampiric achievement, according to this text, is mind contact.
Mind contact. Okay, now we're talking like full-on telepathy.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
They claim that a highly skilled vampire can draw life force from someone just by thinking about them.
Whoa. No rituals, no objects, just pure mind power. That's some next-level stuff.
It is pretty wild, right?
Mm.
But they also make it clear that reaching this level takes years of intense discipline and training. It's not just something you can do by snapping your fingers.
Right, you gotta work for those supernatural powers. But let's be real here. Even if you could drain someone's life force with your mind, wouldn't that make you, kind of a jerk?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's something this vampire Bible doesn't shy away from. In fact, they have an entire section titled The Predator of Humans, where they address the moral implications of vampirism head-on.
Oh, this I have to hear. How do they justify feeding on people? Do they even try? Well, they basically turn the whole morality argument on its head.
Okay, I am officially intrigued. How do they do that?
They say humans are kidding themselves if they think we are above being predators.
That we're not all just part of the food chain.
Exactly. We hunt, we kill. Maybe not always directly, but we still benefit from it.
So in their minds, vampires are just being more honest about their place in the natural order.
That's the gist, yeah. They even go as far as saying vampirism is a more evolved way of being.
More evolved. How so?
They believe vampires have tapped into a power source that's always been their life force. They're not limited by physical needs like we are.
So it's about transcending our limitations, becoming something more than human.
That's a big part of it, yeah. But it's also about control. Controlling your own destiny, controlling others. And that brings us back to their big prediction.
The coming apocalypse.
You remember that. And yeah, it's not exactly a picnic in the park.
So paint me a picture. What does their vampire-ruled future look like?
Well, picture this. Humanity gets a massive culling. They call it the final harvest, right?
And the vampires are behind it.
They see it as a necessary step to reclaim their rightful place.
Okay, that's pretty dark. And after this harvest, what happens to the survivors?
They don't really go into specifics, but it doesn't sound like a happy ending for us humans. More of a, serve your new vampire overlords kind of situation.
So not exactly the utopia they're making it out to be.
Right. Unless you're one of the chosen few, I guess. But here's the thing. Even with all the doom and gloom, this whole vampire Bible thing really makes you think.
No kidding. It's definitely challenged some of my assumptions.
Like, what about all this talk about life force? What if there is more to our world than we can see? More to our...
And if there is, what does that mean for us? Are we really in control of our own lives, or are we just pawns in some bigger game?
Those are some heavy questions.
They are, and ones we're not going to answer today. But I think that's the beauty of exploring these kind of strange, unsettling ideas.
It gets you thinking outside the box.
Exactly. It challenges your beliefs, makes you question what you thought you knew.
And maybe, just maybe, it helps you see the world and yourself in a whole new light.
Well said. Well, folks, there you have it. Another deep dive into the unknown. We hope you found it enlightening, entertaining, or at least mildly disturbing.
Keep those lights on tonight.
Until next time.